Section 1, Introduction. This section covers commercial driver license tests, driver disqualifications, other safety rules. There is a federal requirement that each state have minimum standards for the licensing of commercial drivers. This manual provides driver license testing information for drivers who wish to have a commercial driver license, CDL. This manual does not provide information on all the federal and state requirements needed before you can drive a commercial motor vehicle, CMV. You may have to contact your state driver licensing authority for additional information. You must have a CDL to operate, a single vehicle with a gross vehicle weight rating or gross vehicle weight of 26,001 pounds or more, whichever is greater. A combination vehicle with a gross combination weight rating or gross combination weight of 26,001 pounds or more, whichever is greater, provided the towed unit has a gross vehicle weight rating or gross vehicle weight of 10,001 pounds or more, whichever is greater. A vehicle designed to transport 16 or more passengers, including the driver. Any size vehicle that requires hazardous material placards or is carrying material listed as a select agent or toxin in 42 CFR Part 7.3. Federal regulations through the Department of Homeland Security require a background check and fingerprinting for the hazardous materials endorsement. Contact your local Department of Driver Licensing for more information. Your state may have additional definitions of CMVs. To get a CDL, you must pass knowledge and skills tests. This manual will help you pass the tests. This manual is not a substitute for a truck driver training class or program. Formal training is the most reliable way to learn the many special skills required for safely driving a large commercial vehicle and becoming a professional driver in the trucking industry. Figure 1.1 helps you determine if you need a CDL. Chart on page 1-1, Figure 1.1. Does the vehicle or combination of vehicles have a manufacturer's weight rating, GVWR, over 26,000 pounds? No. Is the vehicle designed to carry 16 or more people, including the driver? Yes. You need a Class C CDL. No. Does the vehicle require hazardous material placards or transport a select agent or toxin? Yes. You need a Class C CDL. No. You do not need a CDL. Does the vehicle or combination of vehicles have a manufacturer's weight rating, GVWR, over 26,000 pounds? Yes. Is the vehicle a combination vehicle towing a unit over 10,000 pounds GVWR? Yes. You need a Class A CDL. No. Does the single vehicle have a GVWR over 26,000 pounds? Yes. You need a Class B CDL. No. Is the vehicle designed to carry 16 or more people, including the driver? Yes. You need a Class C CDL. No. Does the vehicle require hazardous material placards or transport a select agent or toxin? Yes. You need a Class C CDL. No. You do not need a CDL. Note, a bus may be a Class A, B, or C depending on whether the GVWR is over 26,001 pounds or is a combination vehicle. Continuing with the text. 1.1 Commercial Driver License Tests. 1.1.1 Knowledge Tests. You will have to take one or more knowledge tests depending on what class of license and what endorsements you need. The CDL knowledge tests include the General Knowledge Test taken by all applicants, the Passenger Transport Test taken by all bus driver applicants, the Air Brakes Test, which you must take if your vehicle has air brakes, including air over hydraulic brakes, the Combination Vehicles Test, which is required if you want to drive combination vehicles, the Hazardous Materials Test, required if you want to haul hazardous materials or waste in amounts that require placarding, or any quantity of a material listed as a select agent or toxin in 42 CFR 7.3. The Tanker Test, required if you want to haul a liquid or liquid gas in a tank or tanks rated more than 119 gallons and an aggregate capacity of 1,000 gallons or more. The Doubles and Triples Test, required if you want to pull double or triple trailers. The School Bus Test, required if you want to drive a school bus. 1.1.2 Skills Tests, If you pass the required knowledge test or tests and hold the commercial learner's permit a minimum of 14 days, you can take the CDL skills tests. There are 3 types of general skills that will be tested: pre-trip inspection, basic vehicle control, and on-road driving. You must take these tests in the type of vehicle for which you wish to be licensed. Pre-trip vehicle inspection. You will be tested to see if you know whether your vehicle is safe to drive. You will be asked to do a pre-trip inspection of your vehicle and explain to the examiner what you would expect and why. Any vehicle that has components marked or labeled cannot be used for the pre-trip inspection test. Basic vehicle control. You will be tested on your skill to control the vehicle. You will be asked to move your vehicle forward, backward, and turn it within a defined area. These areas may be marked with traffic lanes, cones, barriers, or something similar. The examiner will tell you how each control test is to be done. On-road test. You will be tested on your skill to safely drive your vehicle in a variety of traffic situations. The situations may include left and right turns, intersections, railroad crossings, curves, up and down grades, single or multi-lane roads, streets, or highways. The examiner will tell you where to drive. Figure 1.2 details which sections of this manual you should study for each particular class of license and for each endorsement. Table on page 1-2, Figure 1.2. What sections should you study? License type, Class A. Sections to study: 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 11, 12, 13. License type, Class B. Sections to study: 1, 2, 3, 5, 11, 12, 13. License type, Class C. Sections to study: 1, 2, 3, 5, 11, 12, 13. Endorsement. Hazardous materials. Sections to study: 9, 11, 12, 13. Endorsement, double and triple. Sections to study: 2, 3, 5, 6, 7. Endorsement, tank vehicles. Sections to study: 2, 3, 5, 6, 8, 9. Endorsement, passenger. Sections to study: 2, 3, 4, 5, 11, 12, 13. Endorsement, school bus. Sections to study: 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 11, 12, 13. Footnote: study Section 5 if you plan to operate vehicles equipped with air brakes. Continuing with the text. 1.2 CDL disqualifications. 1.2.1 General. You may not drive a commercial motor vehicle if you are disqualified for any reason. 1.2.2 Alcohol, leaving the scene of an accident, and commission of a felony. It is illegal to operate a CMV if your blood alcohol concentration, BAC, is 0.4% or more. If you operate a CMV, you shall be deemed to have given your consent to alcohol testing. You will lose your CDL for at least 1 year for a first offense for driving a CMV if your blood alcohol concentration is 0.4% or higher, driving a CMV under the influence of alcohol or drugs, refusing to undergo blood alcohol testing, driving a CMV while under the influence of a controlled substance, leaving the scene of an accident involving a CMV, committing a felony involving the use of a CMV, driving a CMV when the CDL is suspended, causing a fatality through negligent operation of a CMV. You will lose your CDL for at least 3 years if the offense occurs while you are operating a CMV that is placarded for hazardous materials. You will lose your CDL for life for a second offense or subsequent major offense. You will lose your CDL for life if you use a CMV to commit a felony involving controlled substances. You will be put out of service for 24 hours if you have any detectable amount of alcohol under 0.04%. You will lose your CDL for at least 60 days for providing false information related to the issuance of a commercial permit or commercial license. You will lose your CDL for at least 1 year if convicted of fraud related to the issuance of a commercial permit or commercial license. 1.2.3 Serious traffic violations. Serious traffic violations are excessive speeding, 15 mph or more above the posted limit, reckless driving, improper or erratic lane changes, following a vehicle too closely, and traffic offenses committed in a CMV in connection with fatal traffic accidents, driving a CMV without obtaining a CDL or having a CDL in the driver's possession, driving a CMV without the proper class of CDL and/or endorsements, texting while driving, and using a handheld mobile telephone while driving. You will lose your CDL for at least 60 days if you have committed 2 serious traffic violations within a 3-year period involving a CMV, for at least 120 days for 3 serious traffic violations within a 3-year period involving a CMV. 1.2.4 Violation of out-of-service orders. You will lose your CDL for 180 days if you have committed your first violation of an out-of-service order, for 2 years if you have committed 2 violations of an out-of-service order in a 10-year period, for 3 years if you have committed 3 or more violations of an out-of-service order in a 10-year period. 1.2.5 Railroad highway grade crossing violations. You will lose your CDL for at least 60 days for your first violation, for at least 120 days for your second violation within any 3-year period, for at least 1 year for your third violation within any 3-year period. These violations include violation of a federal, state, or local law or regulation pertaining to one of the following 6 offenses at a railroad highway grade crossing: for drivers who are not required to always stop, failing to stop before reaching the crossing if the tracks are not clear; for drivers who are not required to always stop, failing to slow down and check that the tracks are clear of an approaching train; for drivers who are always required to stop, failing to stop before driving onto the crossing; for all drivers failing to have sufficient space to drive completely through the crossing without stopping; for all drivers failing to obey a traffic control device or the directions of an enforcement official at the crossing; for all drivers failing to negotiate a crossing because of insufficient undercarriage clearance. 1.2.6 Hazardous materials endorsement, background check, and disqualifications. If you require a hazardous materials endorsement, you will be required to submit your fingerprints and be subject to a background check. You will be denied or you will lose your hazardous materials endorsement if you are not a lawful permanent resident of the United States, renounce your United States citizenship, are wanted or under indictment for certain felonies, have a conviction in military or civilian court for certain felonies, have been adjudicated as a mental defective or committed to a mental institution, are considered to pose a security threat as determined by the Transportation Security Administration. 1.2.7 Traffic violations in your personal vehicle. The Motor Carrier Safety Improvement Act, MCSIA, of 1999 requires a CDL holder to be disqualified from operating a commercial motor vehicle if the CDL holder has been convicted of certain types of moving violations in their personal vehicle. If your privilege to operate your personal vehicle is revoked, canceled, or suspended due to violations of traffic control laws, other than parking violations, you will also lose your CDL privileges. If your privilege to operate your personal vehicle is revoked, canceled, or suspended due to alcohol, controlled substance, or felony violations, you will lose your CDL for 1 year. If you are convicted of a second violation in your personal vehicle or CMV, you will lose your CDL for life. If your privilege to operate your personal vehicle is revoked, canceled, or suspended, you may not obtain a hardship license to operate a CMV. 1.3 Other CDL rules. There are other federal and state rules that affect drivers operating CMVs in all states. Among them are, you cannot have more than one license. If you break this rule, a court may fine you up to $5,000 or put you in jail and keep your home state license and return any others. You must notify your employer within 30 days of conviction for any traffic violations except parking. This is true no matter what type of vehicle you are driving. You must notify your motor vehicle licensing agency within 30 days if you are convicted in any other jurisdiction of any traffic violation except parking. This is true no matter what type of vehicle you are driving. You must notify your employer if your license is suspended, revoked, or canceled, or if you are disqualified from driving. You must give your employer information on all driving jobs you have held for the past 10 years. You must do this when you apply for a commercial driving job. No one can drive a commercial motor vehicle without a CDL. A court may fine you up to $5,000 or put you in jail for breaking this rule. If you have a hazardous materials endorsement, you must notify and surrender your hazardous materials endorsement to the state that issued your CDL within 24 hours of any conviction or indictment in any jurisdiction, civilian or military, for or found not guilty by reason of insanity of a disqualifying crime listed in 49 CFR 1572.103, who is adjudicated as a mental defective or committed to a mental institution as specified in 49 CFR 1572.109, or who renounces his or her U.S. citizenship. Your employer may not let you drive a commercial motor vehicle if you have more than one license or if your CDL is suspended or revoked. A court may fine the employer up to $5,000 or put him or her in jail for breaking this rule. All states are connected to one computerized system to share information about CDL drivers. The states will check on drivers' accident records and be sure that drivers do not have more than one CDL. You must be properly restrained by a seatbelt at all times when operating a commercial motor vehicle. The seatbelt design holds the driver securely behind the wheel during a crash, helping the driver to control the vehicle, and reduces the chance of serious injury or death. If you do not wear a seatbelt, you are 4 times more likely to be fatally injured if you are thrown from the vehicle. Your state may have additional rules that you must also obey. 1.4 International Registration Plan, International Fuel Tax Agreement. If you operate a CDL-required vehicle in interstate commerce, the vehicle, with few exceptions, is required to be registered under the International Registration Plan, IRP, and the International Fuel Tax Agreement, IFTA. These federally mandated programs provide for the equitable collection and distribution of vehicle license fees and motor fuels taxes for vehicles traveling throughout the 48 contiguous United States and 10 Canadian provinces. Under the IRP, jurisdictions must register apportioned vehicles, which includes issuing license plates and cab cards or proper credentials, calculate, collect, and distribute IRP fees, audit carriers for accuracy of reported distance and fees, and enforce IRP requirements. Registrant responsibilities under the plan include applying for IRP registration with base jurisdiction, providing proper documentation for registration, paying appropriate IRP registration fees, properly displaying registration credentials, maintaining accurate distance records, and making records available for jurisdiction review. The basic concept behind IFTA is to allow a licensee, motor carrier, to license in a base jurisdiction for the reporting and payment of motor fuel use taxes. Under the IFTA, a licensee is issued one set of credentials, which will authorize operations through all IFTA member jurisdictions. The fuel use taxes collected pursuant to the IFTA are calculated based on the number of miles or kilometers traveled and the number of gallons or liters consumed in the member jurisdictions. The licensee files one quarterly tax return with the base jurisdiction, by which the licensee will report all operations through all IFTA member jurisdictions. It is the base jurisdiction's responsibility to remit the taxes collected to other member jurisdictions and to represent the other member jurisdictions in the tax collection process, including the performance of audits. An IFTA licensee must retain records to support the information reported on the IFTA quarterly tax return. The IRP registrant and the IFTA licensee may be the vehicle owner or the vehicle operator. The requirement for acquiring IRP plates for a vehicle and IFT license for a motor carrier is determined by the definitions from the IRP plan and the IFTA for qualified vehicle and qualified motor vehicle. For purposes of IRP, a qualified vehicle is, except as provided below, any power unit that is used or intended for use in 2 or more member jurisdictions and that is used for the transportation of persons for hire or designed, used, or maintained primarily for the transportation of property, and has 2 axles and a gross vehicle weight or registered gross vehicle weight in excess of 26,000 pounds, 11,793.401 kilograms, or has 3 or more axles regardless of weight, or is used in combination, where the gross vehicle weight of such combination exceeds 26,000 pounds, 11,793.401 kilograms. While similar, the qualified motor vehicle in IFTA means a motor vehicle used, designed, or maintained for transportation of persons or property and having 2 axles and a gross vehicle weight or registered gross vehicle weight exceeding 26,000 pounds or 11,797 kilograms, or having 3 or more axles regardless of weight, or is used in combination when the weight of such combination exceeds 26,000 pounds or 11,797 kilograms, gross vehicle or registered gross vehicle weight. Qualified motor vehicle does not include recreational vehicles. If the vehicle you operate is registered under IRP and you are a motor carrier licensed under IFTA, then you are required to comply with the mandatory record-keeping requirements for operating the vehicle. A universally accepted method of capturing this information is through the completion of an individual vehicle distance record, IVDR, sometimes referred to as a driver trip report. This document reflects the distance traveled and fuel purchased for a vehicle that operates interstate under apportioned IRP, registration, and IFTA fuel tax credentials. Although the actual format of the IVDR may vary, the information that is required for proper record-keeping does not. In order to satisfy the requirements for individual vehicle distance records, these documents must include the following information: distance, per Article 4 of the IRP plan, date of trip, starting and ending, trip origin and destination, city and state or province, route or routes of travel, beginning and ending odometer or hubdometer reading of the trip, total distance traveled, in-jurisdiction distance, power unit number or vehicle identification number. Fuel, per Section P560 of the IFTA Procedures Manual, .300, an acceptable receipt or invoice must include but shall not be limited to the following: .005, date of purchase, .010, seller's name and address, .015, number of gallons or liters purchased, .020, fuel type, .025, price per gallon or liter or total amount of sale, .030, unit number or other unique vehicle identifier, .035, purchaser's name. An example of an IVDR that must be completed in its entirety for each trip can be found in Figure 1.3 below. Figure 1.3 appears on page 1-6, continuing with the text. Each individual IVDR should be filled out for only one vehicle. The rules to follow when trying to determine how and when to log an odometer reading are the following: at the beginning of the day, when leaving the state or province, at the end of the trip or day. Not only do the trips need to be logged, but the fuel purchases need to be documented as well. You must obtain a receipt for all fueling and include it with your completed IVDR. Make sure that any trips that you enter are always filled out in descending order and that your trips include all states and provinces that you traveled through on your route. There are different routes that a driver may take, and most of the miles may be within one state or province. Whether or not the distance you travel is primarily in one jurisdiction or spread among several jurisdictions, all information for the trip must be recorded. This includes the dates, the routes, odometer readings, and fuel purchases. By completing this document in full and keeping all records required by both the IRP and the IFTA, you will have ensured that you and your company are in compliance with all state and provincial laws surrounding fuel and distance record keeping requirements. The IVDR serves as the source document for the calculation of fees and taxes that are payable to the jurisdictions in which the vehicle is operated, so these original records must be maintained for a minimum of 4 years. In addition, these records are subject to audit by the taxing jurisdictions. Failure to maintain complete and accurate records could result in fines, penalties, and suspension or revocation of IRP registrations and IFTA licenses. For additional information on the IRP and the requirements related to the IRP, contact your base jurisdiction motor vehicle department or IRP Incorporated, the official repository for the IRP. Additional information can be found on the IRP Incorporated website at www.irponline.org. There is a training video on the website homepage available in English, Spanish, and French. For additional information on IFTA and the requirements related to IFTA, contact the appropriate agency in your base jurisdiction. You will also find useful information about the agreement at the official repository of IFTA at http://www.iftaach.org/index.phpg. Illustration on page 1-6, Figure 1.3, Individual Vehicle Mileage and Fuel Record. Example.